Hello, I'm Czardus, and let's play Kerbal Space Program 2. Today I am going to show you how to get to the moon and back, and of course, land on the moon, because what would be the fun in going there and not landing. So let's go ahead and get building our rocket and lander. First, you want to build a lander, so you want to make sure that you have a pod that people can sit in. We're going to go to command pods, and we're going to send just one, I believe. No, I think we're going to have a 3-man lander just because I've built this and I know that we can do it. And then we're going to do the Mark 16 XL parachute on the top so that we can land. And then we want to get a few other things. I want to grab the ladder because we will need it, but it isn't quite where we want it, but we're in this space anyway. Well, you know what, we'll come back. Look at it when we are ready for that. We do want some communication. I don't know that in this early version of the game it's really necessary, but we are going to add it anyway, just so that we're well prepared for later parts of the game. Then electrical, I want to get a battery in, but batteries have low temp tolerance, so they don't do well when they're re-entering to the atmosphere. And while right now in this version of the game there are not, the temperature doesn't matter, eventually it will. So what we're going to do is plan for that to be different. So right now we just want a thermal pad there, a heat shield, and then we can get a coupler, because that is all that we are going to bring back to the atmosphere. So now that we've got our coupler there, we've got our flat space here in front of our other ladder, and we can put this ladder in here, and it is not quite in the right spot, so we're going to grab this rotate and translate, and I'm not quite sure why it didn't get placed in the right spot, and it is missing some of our options here, so let me try to figure this out. Okay, the problem was that I had put it on the coupler instead of anywhere else. So we're going to put it here. We can right click and go to extend, and then we can make sure that it's in a pretty good spot. I think that will work. We don't want to have it on a symmetric thing here, so I'm going to press Control X, Shift X to go backwards to 1. You can see here is our symmetry mode. Again, pressing X can change the number that you have, and we want it to be just on 1. I do want it to be in just a little bit, so we're going to grab this, and now we've got those options. We'll move that in, and we'll move it up just slightly, so it is in a very good spot now. Now we will continue with this build. We want to then get our battery, so we're going to come into electric, and I want this rechargeable battery right there. So now we've got all of that, and then what we want to do is we want to get a fuel tank, and we want to go down here to medium. We're going to do this one, I believe. Yeah, that's a pretty big one, but our ladder, when it's extended, should make it all the way down to the ground. And then we want an engine. We're going to do the Terrier because it has a very good vacuum ISP, which I don't know what that stands for, but those are numbers to pay attention to. And yeah, I don't quite remember. I'm not a scientist, so I'm not going to tell you the science behind that. And then we want to make sure that we have other fun things that can help, like landing gear. We're going to get these medium landing gears on, and I like to do 4 just so that it is a little bit more stable, and we're going to put this about there, and then we can right click and go to leg extended to test how low that is. You want that to be below where your engine is, and that should be good. And the other thing we want to check is that the ladder goes all the way down. It does. That is pretty much good. We're going to lower this just a tiny bit. There we go. That should be exactly where we want it. We're going to close that ladder, and we can close the legs for now. And then the last thing I want to have on here will be lights, and we find those in utility. Then we go down to lights. We want these high intensity photonic generation system, and we're going to tuck these right underneath the legs. You can see when we put them on them, they are pointing upwards here. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab them here. We're going to rotate them around, and then rotate them this way. That should be about in the right spot, but I'm going to tuck them into the vessel just slightly. Didn't quite get them where I want them. Yeah, I guess we're going to just have to. It's the wrong way too. Sometimes it really is just a matter of playing around. I guess we'll leave them there. It should be okay. Let's extend those legs one more time. Yeah, they clip a tiny bit, but I think it'll be okay. And then the other thing I want is solar panels. We're going to go back to electrical, and I just want basic solar panels on here. And we'll tuck those right here. Get 2 of them, and we can extend them. They are crooked. There we go. So then the other thing we're going to do is come down here to Action Group Manager, and we're going to set some of these up. We have lights here. We want to make sure that those are all on the action group, and they are. Then the gear, we want to make sure that the landing gear is on there. So we want to extend leg on all of those, so that when we're up in the space, we can just hit the action group button and it will do that. So we've got gear, we've got lights, and I want to do the same thing for the solar panel. Okay, so we've got our action groups set. Now the next thing we want to do is make sure that this stage, which has 2579 delta V, is going to make it for our trip. So we're going to go to the trip planner down here, and we're going to set it to Kerbin to Mun. And what I really want to pay attention to is starting here, Mun surface, and we can do round trip. We want to go from, so this is going to take over once we're in low orbit. So we want to add 580, 580, 280, and 860. I don't think we need the Kerbin low orbit amount, because that, I mean, we essentially want to crash into Kerbin when we go back, but of course a gentle crash. But we want to add this all together, and that I believe comes to like 2300. Let me double check here. Yep, it's 2300 exactly. So that is less than the delta V we have for this stage, and I am happy with it. So now we are going to get into getting our net stage, which will be a transfer. Here we go. A transfer engine. And you can see here, we've got a problem. So we have a coupler here, and that kind of breaks things off. What we're going to do is we're going to put that coupler there, and then we're also going to do a payload. We want to come down to fairing. We want a medium fairing. We're going to start here, click that, and then we want to click on this gear here, and we're going to bring the fairing out, and we want to make sure that we are out far enough here. And every once in a while it gets a little bit wonky in the way that this works, but you want to bring this out, and it's really a playing thing. Let's go to there, and then we're going to hit plus. Now that we've got this out over the lights, then we'll hit plus and get a new section here, and we want to come to about there, yeah. Then bring it back in, And then one more section. That did not quite work the way it was supposed to. Let's go back to this one. One more section up here. And get that nice and pointy. That should work, I think. Yeah. So now, if we right click on this, did not do anything. Right click down here, or you can do there we go, that's what we want. Look at that, and then you can see it can come off. Okay. So we are done with that. We can get that away. And now we have this stage here, which will be getting rid of the fairing. We want this coupler to go there, and then that can go there. Very good. Okay. Then we want to come in here, and I think we just built a coupler. We did. So now we want to get a fuel tank that will get us, and a fuel tank and an engine that will get us all the way to low orbit. So we want 860 plus 280, and then that should be all we need, like 1,000 or 1,100 in this stage. And then let's get an engine. We want, at this point, we can do the mainsail, which is a pretty powerful one in, although, no, look at that, sips. We want this one. Is it not as heavy? Yeah, there, we've got plenty there. We don't need that much fuel. Let's take the fuel away. And let's do a smaller one here. 1824. That might not be enough, actually. Because now I just got thinking, we will probably need some of what we have there. I'm going to do the other fuel tank. Just because sometimes you want to have overkill, especially when you're a casual player. So that will work for that. Then we want to come down here and get another coupler. And then we can just put a solid booster on here. Come down here, solid fuel booster. Get as much as we can out of this. Okay, yeah, that should be good. So now we're looking at stage 1 has, it will not tell me how much it has. Come on, recalculate. So stage 1, it has 2225, which will not get us all the way to orbit, but it will get us pretty close, and then we can use this one to get us the rest of the way. And that will then, let's see, 22. If we go to the trip planner, we can look at this a little bit more. Don't pay attention to this, because right here, it's trying to go all the way the round trip. Switch it back to one-way trip. Yeah, it says that we can definitely get to the surface, and then what we have is 2,500 to get back, which should be enough. I mean, that's pretty much this whole thing here. So I think we're all set here. And we are going to save this and then go to the launch pad. And now that we're at the launch pad, I forgot one important thing, which is our stability fin. So we are going to hit escape and revert to the VAB. All right, so for stability, we're going to come down here and we are going to grab aerodynamics and go down to stabilizer. We want medium stabilizer, and we want that, I like to have 4 on there. So that should give us the stability that we need. We can save this again and go to the launch pad. All right, now we are ready. It is a beautiful day. We've got Valentina. Oh, we never added more crew, but that's okay. We'll just have the one person now. And we're going to go ahead and launch this. Now, a couple things. We're going to do a gravity turn. If you watched my last episode, or my last video on how to do an orbit, which should be on the screen now that you can click on and watch, we're going to do the same thing that we did there. And I will see you in orbit. Okay, so now we are in orbit, and the next thing we want to do is we want to zoom out with the mouse wheel, and then we want to go over here and click on moon, right click and set as set target. Now we get these new lines that show the inclination of our orbit. And that means the difference between the planes of the orbit that you are on. And what we want to do is I want to go over to this point here, which is right near where that inclination is. I'm going to create a maneuver point here, and we're just going to work on matching those planes. And so we want to bring this up, I believe, yep, until that is at 0. So now that will match our planes perfectly, and we want to make this just a little bit more. There we go. That will be about where we want. We only need 18 delta V, so that's going to be a little bit difficult to achieve, but let's go ahead and give it a try. We're going to set our maneuver here. We're going to set our SAS to maneuver, let that move, and we are going to warp to that maneuver. Now, one thing to note about maneuvers that require very little is instead of hitting Z to turn on full blast of that burn, I'm going to hit Shift to just get a little bit more. And then when I get there, I'm going to hit X to get rid of the burn. So we should be pretty close here. Yep, we have 0 inclination, which is what we wanted. Now what we want to do is we want to look at these orbits, and we want to create a maneuver node that will be when this is, or what I'm doing is I'm putting the moon at about 90 degrees here. Then I'm going to come down here and create a maneuver node here. Now, I don't know that this is the best way to do this, but it's the way that I do it. And we're going to add prograde until we get an intercept. We're going to go out here. There, we've got an intercept there. You can see intercept 1 and intercept 2. So the target will be there when we're doing the intercept. So now what we can do is we can fine tune this, and we're going to just pick it up and move it a little bit. And let's get a little bit more here. Okay, so that should be pretty good. You can see that intercept 1, we are pretty close there. We're going to do this, and we don't quite have, we're not going to get into the sphere of influence of the moon on this intercept unless we move this way. So where fine-tuning gets a little bit difficult. But the other thing we can do is that once we are in that orbit, or once we are on our trajectory towards the moon, what we're going to do is we're going to adjust that. That might work there. Intercept 1, it has us crashing into the moon. That'll be fine. That is going to work. So we're going to set this to target, and then warp to the maneuver. We need 835 delta V here, so I'm going to do a full blast on the engines when we get there. And we want to do the burns from this view so that we can watch our actual orbit and make sure that we get the burn right. So like I said, we're on full blast of the throttle. I hit Z when that burn time started, and when we get closer, I'm going to reduce it with the control key, and you can reduce with control and increase with shift at a little bit at a time. So here we're going to reduce just so that we can get that a little bit more controlled. And then we'll kill it here. So now we can see that we are making some progress here. We're getting closer, and what we're going to do is when we get out to about here, we will fine tune that and do another burn. But for now, let's go ahead back to our ship, and we're going to do a couple of different things. We want to extend our solar panels. So now we should be getting some solar power from the sun, especially if we point in that direction, although we're on the dark side of Kerbal right now. Kerbin. I always forget the like get them mixed up. We're going to have this on lock. Just make sure that we are generating some solar power here. And we actually still have our transfer stage, so we are doing really great with Delta V. Let's switch back here, and like I said, we're going to create another node about here. And I wonder if we can focus. Well, no, we can't. We're going to create the node here. And we are going to just kind of play around with this until we get our information, or well, maybe this is not going to work. I want to get that interception 1. I mean, right now it has us going in there, entering into the sphere, and then it has the periapsis at 168. I guess that will work, and then when we get there, we can do another burn then. So let's go ahead and fast forward to our maneuver, or our interception point. So you can see they've got this cool graphic now showing where that sphere of influence is. We are about to enter the sphere of influence of the moon. Okay, so now it has changed, and now we are here going around the moon. We want to create a new maneuver point here at the periapsis around the moon, and we want to get retrograde until we get an apoapsis and an orbit around the moon. There we go. And then we're going to bring this down. And actually, we don't even need to go that far. We just want to make sure that we stay in the influence. And then we'll use Delta V again when we get on the other side of it. So that should work. That gets us in here. 108. That's going to work. Okay, go to target and warp to the maneuver. Okay, there we go. So now we are in orbit around the moon. We're going to come back over here and create another maneuver point. I like to do multiple maneuvers just to get everything the way I want it. We're going to bring that periapsis down, and it doesn't quite tell me that's our rocket. Yeah, we just want to make sure that we don't crash. I think that will work. It's only going to take 14 Delta V to get there, but that will get us there. And then what we're going to do when we're here next is I have another maneuver node to circularize at about that point. So let's go ahead and do this one, and then we'll do the next one as well. Okay, so we've got that periapsis down to about 14 kilometers. That will work for me. And then we're going to do one more maneuver node over here. And bring that apoapsis way down and get us into low moon orbit. Okay, there we are. So now we have pretty much a circular orbit. We're going to go around here, and we will find a landing spot next. Okay, so I had to stop to take a little break, and when I went to reload, it did not quite reload everything properly. I think there was a little error, so I had to redo our orbit, and it didn't quite match what we had before, but we're going to go with it anyway. And what we want to do when we're trying to land, first of all, we want to have this set as the target, and we want to find a flat spot and we want to have it be in the light. So what we're going to do is we're just going to speed up a bit here and kind of go around, because we're about to go into the dark side here. And then we will actually, what I'll do is I'll warp to here, time warp to there, go ahead, and then we will take a look and see if we can find a flat spot. So we actually don't have very many good flat spots here. So I'm going to warp around a couple of times, and then we'll let the moon should be rotating a little bit and getting a little bit better lighting. Okay, so I think this is probably about as good as we're going to get. This area has just come into the light. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a maneuver point here, and we want to just slow down until we get that landing site around where we want it. And we're going to just kind of try to land in this flat area here. We have a little bit, it's not going to be the easiest landing, but it should work okay. And what we want to do is we'll just want to make sure that we are slowing down there, which will probably be retrograde to start, and then we're going to try to get that to here, and then we're going to do the rest of it by just watching what we're doing. Right, so we are going to start here, and we are, again, we're still on the transfer stage, which is really great. We're going to have plenty of delta V to achieve this landing, but in just a moment we're going to burn some fuel and move our landing point into the target area. And we will burn in 4, 3, 2, 1, and burn. And we're not doing too much at once. We want to have this be pretty controlled. And that should be about where we want it here. Right about there. That should work. Okay, so now we have a crashing trajectory. We're going to change to this view. And we're going to get those solar panels. Well, I guess we could keep them out. They have to stay extended anyway. But we do want to jettison this engine. So we're going to go this way and just kind of fire it away from us. There we go. And now I want to set our control to retrograde, and we will turn on the lights, and we might as well extend that gear. So what we want to do is I'm going to wait until we are out over that flat area, and then we are going to start firing the engines a little bit more. And we want to follow. Now I've switched this by clicking on here on the velocity. You can change it to orbit. I've changed it to surface now. So we are watching that surface speed. And what I want to do is I want to kind of watch that ground trajectory and watch that surface speed. And eventually what we want to do is we want to try to eliminate all of our horizontal speed, so that then we're just coming down vertically. We don't have any mods that can tell us all that much horizontal, but we can see here, this is our vertical speed. So pretty much all of our velocity right now is horizontal. So let's go ahead and start firing this. So we're going to reduce that horizontal speed, and that is going to slow us down and get us closer to making sure that we can land on this crater, which is the flattest spot that we could find, and probably the best. Oops, I meant to keep that going. And these are different biomes on the moon, or they will be eventually, I'm sure. And then if you are playing with science, which is not available at the time of this recording, then you could try to land different stuff. And it looks like there might be an Easter egg over there. I wonder if we can if we try to land here, we might be able to get out and go over there, but I see something on the ground there, which is very interesting. Let's see where we are landing right now. It's going to put us in the center of the crater right now. But again, that is all horizontal speed. We want to try and slow down that horizontal speed so that we are getting all of our have this match what is over here, and that will tell us that we have vertical speed. I'm going to actually ride us ahead a little bit here. I want to get us a little bit closer to that spot, and we want this to be at ground. That is the, so if you click here, you can see that is the sea altitude. This is the ground altitude. I don't think we're quite going to get there, but if we can land, then we might be able to just, we have plenty of delta V. Once we're landed, we might have an easier time flying closer to that if we need to. But now, where are we looking at now? Okay, we're actually expecting to land in a deeper part of the crater. Let's go ahead and slow this down some more. And hopefully we're slowing down fast enough here. We should be, because I think we have enough. Yeah, we're gonna be fine. At some point, we should be able to see our shadow. And then we can watch the shadow to know how close we're getting as well. We are not going to land on a very flat spot here, so it's not the ideal landing spot. But we are getting a little bit more vertical here. And again, we want to eliminate as much of that horizontal speed as we can. Right now we're facing retrograde, pointed at retrograde. So now a lot of this is vertical speed. This did not change the way that I expected it to, but that's okay. We are now pretty much straight up. And that is where we're going to land. So now we want to watch this and watch our ground altitude. This is going to, we want to have this be close to about probably under 10 at the minimum, or like at the maximum would be 10 meters per second at landing. But ideally we will be even lower than that. So right now what I'm doing is I'm just keeping it under 50 meters per second so that we can have a controlled landing here. Still not seeing our shadow here, but that's okay. We're getting closer. Now I'm going to try to keep that surface speed under 25. And I'm going to change our SAS to just be pointing upwards now. And yeah, this is not a flat looking spot at all, but we are doing what we can here. So we're now about 350 meters to the ground. We want to slow that speed even more here. And we have a little bit of trajectory here that we're going. We should be landing very soon. I'm slowing down further and further. And you can see we're getting close. It is kicking up some dust. There, this is going to be a very smooth landing right now. And again, the shadow never showed up. It did on my test, but not on this one. But we are about to land. Oh, there's the shadow. There we go. And we have landed. Beautiful. So we are now landed here. And what we can do is we can do a couple of things. Valentina can come out, and if we wanted, she could walk around a little bit and do whatever she wanted to. That is very exciting. Okay, so now that we are landed and we're out on our EVA, let's open up our ladder. Extend the part. Ah, it didn't work. Maybe because we've got it in. We did move it in a little bit. Yep, status blocked. Okay, so we're not going to actually leave from here. And if you're watching this and you followed the steps I made, then don't put that ladder in there. But we're going to hit B to get back in here because at this point there is no science for me to do. So we're just going to go ahead, and I could fly around and try to land here, but I'm not very good at EVAs just yet, so we're going to skip that. And instead, I wonder if we can find, because we have a lot of, well, no. You know, I'm tempted to try to find that Easter egg, but I think I'll do that on my own time on the save file. And instead, let's head home. So what we're going to do is we're going to launch, and we're going to immediately start turning to try and get our trajectory at a good point that we can take off pretty well and have an efficient burn. So what we'll do is we'll just go ahead and give it some throttle here and start to turn. We are turning this way, very good, and we want to point prograde. And I'm just going to let us go whatever direction we go. You know, it's not going to be the most efficient thing, but we are going to go at about 45 degrees here. Go back to SAS control. Let's get our lights off and our gear back in. And we're going to watch that apoapsis until it gets to about, let's say, 10,000, and then we will kill the engine. So let's get that. We're really close. Yeah, 10,000, almost exactly. Now we're going to point to prograde, and we're going to watch this. This is our apoapsis is in about a minute, and we're not even going to do a maneuver node because I don't know that I can create one in time to do. Well, I guess we could. Let's go to the map, and we're going to come up here and create a maneuver node and do prograde like that. That was too much. We just want this. Yeah, we gotta hurry. And that's not gonna work. This is, yeah, okay. We're gonna toss that. And we want prograde. We're gonna go ahead and start kicking this into gear. And try and get this periapsis up to about 10,000 or more so that we are in an orbit. We want to make sure we don't crash. And I think we will be able to make it. There we go. So now we've got a better apoapsis. Let's go all the way over here, create the maneuver point, and we're going to go ahead and just get that up so that that is circularized. And then we want to go to target. And then we can fast forward where warp is the phrase that we want to use here. We will warp to the maneuver point. And then we can watch that burn timer. We only need 20 delta V to achieve this. So actually what I'm going to do is we're pretty close to that point. I'm just going to go ahead and do this. It doesn't have to be perfect. We just want to make sure that periapsis is up high enough. There we go. So we are in orbit again. We've got 1,000 delta V to get us back home. Let's go ahead and set Kerbin as our target. And what we're going to do is, you know, this is not the best orbital path to do this, but it is going to work. So when we are orbiting, we're going in this direction. And what we want to do is we want to just slow down enough that we end up outside of the sphere over there. So I'm going to create a maneuver point here. And we're going to actually speed up here so that we are coming out of the sphere of influence. And you can see the sphere of influence is this circle around there. We want to get just out of that. And then that will get us in an orbit around Kerbin. That is going to take 193. That's not too bad. Let's go ahead and get into our maneuver point. And once we're in that orbit, I don't really care what direction we're going. So this is going to be just fine. Let's go ahead and warp to that point, and then we will do the burn. Okay, we are pretty much there. We're gonna get back on our target. And I'm okay going with our burn right now. So let's go ahead and just burn that for a bit. And that is getting our apoapsis out farther. Go ahead and take that out, and we're just going to watch this. There we are. So we have plenty here. We are going to escape the thing, and then right over here, we're going to go ahead and time warp to that point. I think. Yeah, that is where it's going to take us. Time warp to there. So now, what we're going to do is we want to point in retrograde. And we want to slow down to get that periapsis much closer here. So that periapsis is coming down. We'll just do a gentle burn here. And we want to get that much closer to Kerbin. And my target here is we're going to get that down to about 50. Maybe about 30 would be even better. But I'm watching down here in the corner on our nav ball. You can see our orbital info. I want that to be about 50, and then, or I guess 30. And that will get us on a trajectory that will end up in, like, crashing into Kerbin. So as we get closer here, I'm going to throttle down a little bit so that we have a little bit more control. And now I'm going to be ready to just kill the throttle entirely. That should work. 33 kilometers up when we get down there. And so let's go ahead and speed up here. Okay, and we don't have, are we pointed to the, we are rotating. Yeah, retrograde, that is fine. We should be able to find Kerbin, there it is. Okay, now let's go ahead and get even closer. Where is it going to have us come down? That will be pretty good, actually. I think we're going to splash down in the water over here. We should be able to go already. Let's go ahead and get in this view. You can see Kerbin approaching there. And we are going to probably, let's just go ahead and fast forward a little bit here until we get closer. And now let's check our trajectory again. When we get into the atmosphere, it's going to cause us to slow down some. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and we're going to phase retrograde. And I'm just going to burn off some more of this fuel. We might as well be doing that. Just lowering our periapsis a tiny bit, but also really just generally slowing us down a little bit as we approach. And you don't want to do that too much because you don't want it to come in too steep. And I think this is going to be fine. We are now going to point away here. We're going to set this to stability on. And I want to point this away from us. We're like away from the trajectory that we are on. And we are going to go to the next stage. So now we can set it to retrograde. And we should be prepped for re-entry. I don't think that we can... Yep, we can't retract those. So those are going to break off at some point, which will be fine. And in the meantime, let's try to get our camera at a good point where we don't have all that much of the planet in place, and that can keep our frame rate up. You can see if we go like this, the frame rate suffers. We're at about 10 frames per second, but here we are at 50. So that is one little trick there, is to make sure that you don't have it on the planet too much, because that's where all the detail is right now. And until they optimize things better, for now, that gets a lot of the frame rate issues. Let's go ahead and fast forward here. Our periapsis is dropping, which means we are slowing down from the atmosphere already. And we are likely to end up landing, which is exactly what we want. We can slow down here. We're at about 30 kilometers up. If there was heat impacts, we would be experiencing them now, and those solar panels would be burning off. Now, I'm just going to check the map to see where we're going to land. We are possibly going to land on land, which would be okay. We should have the parachute should be well enough to handle that. But we're going to watch this ground, and we'll get closer and closer, and then when that surface speed is below 200, I will deploy the chute. Let's go ahead and again get this positioned to have better frame rate. All right, we are at the point that I am going to deploy this parachute. We can zoom out a little bit and fast forward again. So that should do it. We're going to come down and we are going to land in the desert out here, which is pretty cool to see. We'll get to see some of that texture of the ground. I have not seen that sand texture yet, but we will see it in just a moment. And there we are. We have landed. So we successfully went to the moon and back. Valentina has done it, and we have done it too. So make sure you let me know in the comments what you'd like to see me cover and give you a tutorial on next. But thanks for watching. Be sure to click on the video on the screen now. It will be one you will enjoy, and I will catch you next time. Take care.